strictly guitar choice.
And a good evening once again from the beautiful shores of Lake Erie. This is Kevin Syracuse, your host of the BF Writers Club, right here on the Buffalo Fanatics Network. And I am joined once again by Jeffrey Brady tonight as we have a big show planned for you. Sorry that we're a little bit late, but we hope you can stay up with us because we have a lot to talk about because it is finally here, and that is training camp. Training camp just 2 days away, July 25th on Tuesday. All veterans, well, actually all players will report to training camp at St. John Fisher. The rookies reported last Tuesday. Now the veterans, the full squad will be at St. John Fisher. Unfortunately, it's not Fredonia, but nonetheless, football season is right around the corner. So with that, let's get into it as we are going to be talking about which positions that we need to be on the lookout for over these next few weeks, because there are a lot of battles that are going to be going on between different positions, different players. There is depth and competition all over, Jeff.
Yeah, there really is. And I already see we have our first comment from Jessica. Is the sound not great still? Because we've made some changes. I see it on YouTube. So do we not see it on StreamYard that about the sound there's an issue? Or
yeah, I see the comment right there.
How we sound, guys? Anything better or worse, or what's rather cut it out now than deal with it later. So
yeah, let us know, if we have any audio issues, but we are in a different location once again. You know what the deal is. There's always some little technical aspect that we're trying to tinker around with. So you guys are technically our audio engineers. So please let us know before the show goes on any further. John sounds fine to him. So
okay, cool. Maybe Jessica, upgrade your internet since Kevin hasn't. That's why he's here. So
easy.
Jessica, thank you for being here. Always, and Sophia, and the best part about this show is having a strong, female presence, which is always cool. So training camp battles all night. Let's do it.
Before we get into that, want to say thank you to Sons of Erie for being the sponsor of tonight's show. Sons of Erie, check them out on Instagram at Sons of Erie. And once again, thank you to Jeff for joining me. And we're going to be talking about training camp battles, which are going to be going underway just in a couple of days. And then that is going to segue into Bryce Martino because he wrote a couple of articles on different battles to look for between wide receivers, middle linebacker, and defensive tackle. So Jeff and I will give a general overview of what to expect over these next few weeks. And then we'll get a little bit more specific with Bryce. And then hang tight because my safety rankings came out on Friday. And I think there are a couple of Bills that might have found themselves in those spots there, Jeff.
Am I going to get upset? I didn't get upset last week. I agreed and then got upset and then got not upset. So, there's always confusion here, but I'm very much looking forward to that to see how angry I will be.
Well, I think we can all agree that the Bills have some pretty good safeties on their roster. So we'll save that for the end. Like I said, I hope you guys can stick around for that because we're not going to keep it too long tonight. We realize tomorrow's a work day. So we'll try to keep it as clear and concise as possible. So with that, why don't we talk about some of these different training camp battles that we have here? And before we get into it, I'll just let you start. What are your initial thoughts with training camp less than 2 days away now?
My initial thoughts are eternal battles. I feel like we're so well staffed. Maybe that's a product of there only being one cut this year. We're not doing tiered cuts. We're not going from 90, to 75 to 60 to your final 50 something. But I think we're doing a lot of searching from within this year, which is that's kind of where you want to be at. Like I think we kind of know where we're going to be at personnel wise. The battles aren't Can he win the job, or do we need to search for free agents because they're slim pickings right now? But I think keeping the battles internal. I mean, we know what we have, and we like what we have, and we're just going to get the best. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So any battle right now, I think it's super interesting, but it clearly establishes that we like the roster right now, and I don't think we're searching outside the organization to kind of fill out any weaknesses. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, you know what? We already have a okay. We have two comments here that I want to get to. Trey says, Kevin, better sound this time, and how long until Torrance starts? And then Jessica asks, who will be on the PUP list to start the season? So I guess we might as well start right there. And what are your thoughts on Von Miller? Because Von is so optimistic about everything. I don't know if I've ever met a professional athlete that has more smiles on his face and more optimism in his eyes.
Or more guarantees.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee OBJ is going to sign with that. Whoever wins that first game between the Rams and the Bills.
I guarantee that I'll be back for that Jets game on December 6th.
You know, D-Hop's definitely coming to Buffalo. The Buffalo, wrong. It's just, that's fine. But the guy's an optimistic guy. But on the flip side of the coin, he's a physical freak. I mean, he is never let an injury lag him. But at the same time, when do we want Vaughn out there? Do we want him in the first three, or, you know, a non-divisional, non-conference game? Do we want him out there? We want him where it matters, and I think that's kind of where the team suffered last year. Is he wasn't, you know, he wasn't in the game. He wasn't available. I mean, sometimes the best ability is availability. So why don't we just make sure he's great? I mean, we took the same approach with Trey. Trey was, by all accounts, was there for the knee, but, you know, some would say the mentals weren't there yet because, you know, collision sport, all that other stuff. I think we have to borrow from the way the training staff and the coaching staff handled how we brought Trey back, because he is, if not better, that type of caliber, you know, perennial all-pro player. So I don't know when you guys all want him back. I want him back when he's 100%. The knee is out of mind, and when games really matter.
Well, I think this is a good way to start, because we might as well just start with the defense. I was going to talk about the offense.
Jessica, correct. Phillips as well. She's on fire tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the defensive line right now. So I think that the addition of Leonard Floyd is huge, because I think that could be a signal that Von starts on the PUP list. Maybe the first 4 weeks, they start him out slow, and then they work him in, because you don't want to rush him, because the Bills are at the point where they can play for February. And I know every week matters, but the way that they shift their season, they have one goal in mind, and that's playing in February. Years ago, during the drought, every single week mattered. And obviously, I know, I just said every week matters. But
it's kind of a catch-22, right? Every week matters, but some weeks they don't matter, and some weeks matter more.
Yeah, but the difference here between McDermott's Bills and any other previous Bills, like with Rex Ryan, is that you think that this team is going to be playing into January and February, and you have that in the back of your mind where you say, you know what, let's not rush Von back, because we need him in late January and February. Whereas if this was years ago, you might say, we really need Von so we can at least get to the playoffs. The Bills can get to the playoffs without Von Miller, but can they win the Super Bowl without Von? So I think that they're doing everything with the Super Bowl in mind. And when they bring a guy like Leonard Floyd in, someone who put up 29 sacks in 3 seasons in LA, that is a huge veteran presence right there, who you can put on the bookend with Greg Rousseau, and he could be a placeholder until Von is 110% healthy.
Well, I don't even think he can be a placeholder. I think he could be a highly functioning contributor. And, like, you know, for all the discreditation I just did with Von and his, like, junior GM status he has right now, you have to think that he had some, you know, social influence in getting Floyd on the, you know, on this team. Because, you know, he is the lens eye to, like, hey, man, we really do it right here. We have top-notch facilities, and we're out to win one. So for all the pooping on Von I just did, like, that's one of the things that, you know, it's indelible, his success here and how much he wants to be here, because he's recruiting and advocating this team for others to join and add value to it. So I hope to see Von. I don't know. I hope to see Von where we're ready and when we need him. I think that's I know that's a little ambiguous, but I think that's, you know, that's kind of where we're all at, you know.
Now, John says that he read that Phillips will start the season on the PUP list. I haven't heard anything about that. I know that he was battling through injuries last year, so that could be another name to watch for. But really, as much as I love Jordan Phillips, I'm not worried, because the Bills really built up that defensive line. And speaking of Leonard Floyd, the other big addition right after the draft was Poona Ford. And he's that big one tech where I was looking at the depth chart earlier. Right now, it looks like Daquan Jones is a starting one tech. Ed Oliver, they got him on that big extension. Those are your first two defensive tackles. Then you have Poona Ford and Tim Settle. So really, not that the Bills don't need Jordan Phillips, but they can afford to not be with them for those first 4 weeks, for the point that I was just making. You don't want to rush him into it. They don't absolutely need him on week 1. You need someone like Jordan Phillips for the push down in December and January.
Well, 2 comments there. To anybody think they have an inside track of where people are going to start on the season, and not saying your sources are any better than mine. It would be disingenuous to say that they have a lens eye into the training room, where they're at in their rehabilitation. So I right now don't necessarily commit very much solder chutzpah into people having the inside track onto where people are going to start. Obviously, those are legitimate questions and people that will be in the lens of, where they're going to start the season. There are different cuts this year in training camp and different designations we will have to assign people. What was the other thing?
Well, Mike says that Tommy Doyle is going to start on the PUP list, he thinks. Now, you personally know Tommy.
I am a good friend of Tommy's.
Anything about Tommy Doyle's ACL recovery?
I know he looks great. I know he took his offseason rehab seriously. If anybody, and this isn't like non-material public information, the guy's going to a mobility and flex teacher. He has that up at his dad's camp in Minnesota. I've never seen him look as good and look as vengeful as to regaining his status in this league. You got to remember, he's going to be looking for a contract soon, and if he plays the way he started and unfortunately abruptly ended last year, he's going to be in the legitimate conversation for playing time, stuff like that. Also, with the defensive line, let's all consider we have a very heavy defensive line rotation, so we're less reliant on singular entities, but like a continuity within all of them. So the quicker they get in that rotation and continuity, the better. But at the same time, there's a rotational aspect to it, so we're never reliant on just one person. So I think that aids to any rehabilitation we have to do with those defensive linemen.
Now, before we go over to the offensive line, speaking of Tommy Doyle, we'll hit on that side of the ball next. But I just want to say one more thing about the defensive linemen. This is a huge year for AJ Epinesa and Boogie Basham, because those guys are probably your third string defensive ends right now. But this is a huge year, contract year for Epinesa.
Well,
Basham had that tweet earlier in the offseason where he said he's going to explode this year. And those could be 2 names. We talked about it last week with Kevin Masser and Tommy Jomber when they joined the show, that those 2 guys could be trade candidates, because this team is so stacked that you're going to have to make some hard cuts. And you don't want to just release these guys out to any other 31 teams to pick them up. You might want to try to get something back for them. So look for those 2 guys to either potentially really pop off this year or maybe even get traded.
And that's what I was going to say. Are they a bigger candidate for a contract extension, or are they a bigger candidate for a cut? And that's that's crazy to me. It's kind of lend its hand to the talent that we have on this roster. You know what I mean? I think that's very cool. So yeah, I struggle with that too. Are they getting cut? They getting traded, or are they getting extended? So it's gonna be a cool one. It's a good position to be in.
Now let's go over to the offensive line, because this has been very, what's the word that I want to use here? I love that the Bills built up the depth chart here, but it's been almost peculiar to me the way they went about it. Because I was a critic of not necessarily the O'Cyrus Torrence draft pick in itself, because I think he was the best player available, definitely the best guard available at the time. But they signed Connor McGovern to starter level money. At the time I checked, he was like the 18th highest paid guard when they signed him to that 3-year, $22.5 million contract. Might even been 23. Either way, he's making about $7 or $8
and it clearly was noticed, because Dallas currently has an offensive line holding out. I think very much he saw what he got, and he recognized, the financial commitment that another Super Bowl contender made to him. And he's like, hey man, why am I not getting paid? It's hard to believe that those 2 events aren't at least semi-linked or correlated.
Yeah. So now there is almost a log jam on the Bills offensive line. And that's a good problem to have, because last year Josh Allen was running for his life way more times than he should have been. And one of the big reasons for that was on the left side with Roger Saffold. There's that clip going around on Twitter during the playoff game against Cincy where he was just a turnstile. So out goes Roger Saffold. In comes Connor McGovern. They have Ryan Bates still. They drafted Osiris Torrance. And then they had a bunch of free agent additions. Guys like David Edwards, Kevin Jarvis. They brought back Brandon Shell playing right tackle. They brought back David Questenberry. Ike Butker got re-signed. So there are so many guys here. We're talking about the defensive line. Maybe some of these guys are up for trade candidates as well.
Yeah, it no longer feels like we're just looking for warm bodies for training camp. You know, the grueling of training camp, Kevin. It kind of feels like, whoa, every on any given Sunday, these guys can be a, utility for the team. And the best part is, Kev, they're all learning multiple positions. So you don't just have a stringent left guard anymore. You have a guy that's maybe can be a swing tackle because of his footwork. You have multiple people that can, be suitable and be serviceable in multiple positions. And it no longer feels like, hey, we're going to bring in 15 offensive linemen because of the grueling toll of the St. John Fisher Heat. Now it's like we're going to bring in 15 offensive linemen to compete for 5 spots.
And Nick Broker, another one, 7th round rookie. They drafted him. And even that, I was like, holy cow, they are just attacking the guard position hard. And, that's a good thing because you want to protect Josh Allen. That's the main thing. But I was just a little confused with how they were going about it because they were drafting and signing so many interior offensive linemen. And, Spencer Brown is another guy that you know personally. So I want to ask you about Spencer because I was a critic of not only Spencer Brown's play, but also how the Bills addressed that side where they didn't really do anything in the draft or free agency. They brought back David Questenberry, but he's 32 years old, and I think he's already reached his ceiling. He's not going to be getting any better. But I love that they brought in Brandon Shell, who saw some of his best days in Miami last year. So that made me feel better. But how do you feel about the right tackle position, and what can you tell us about Spencer?
I feel like you're trying to pin me with all my relationships.
No. Of course not.
I mean, okay. And that being said, no, Spencer's he looks great, man. I mean, secret's out, man. He shouldn't have played the first 3 or 4 games last year with that back. You got it taken care of this offseason. He looks great. I mean, I've never seen a 6'10" guy kind of move and shake at my bocce tournament like that. And I don't know, I'm fired up, man. Like it's almost like I feel like he's a big corn-fed guy from northern Iowa. Like and he carries. I think we said it last week. He carries the nasty of what I saw kind of in Richie and people hate this, but kind of Cody Ford was operating with that a little bit. So I hope he brings the nasty. I have a healthy Spencer Brown is going to be awesome. A healthy Kyer is going to be awesome. A healthy Poyer, a healthy Micah Hyde. All these positional things are. I mean, how many people on the roster right now do you think you could name on the Bills? And is it the most you ever could? Because they're all relevant multi-tool players that can have real value, in any position. And just imagine, like, put it this way: if Spencer Brown leaves and goes to another team, you'd hate playing him. Yeah, you'd hate it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we should value and let's be less I think critical. Does he deserve any critique he puts on film? Yes, but Northern Iowa guy didn't play his senior season. COVID, had the back issue last year, but he's 6'10", this physical specimen that runs and gets after play, helps Josh up. Let's not like denigrate his like utility into terms of like, don't we want to build a team around that attitude coming back and just give him what he's due. He's due a clean slate this year of how hurt he was last year. So I'm excited for Spencer Brown. I'll die on that hill that he's going to be the dude this year.
All right. Well, about 20 minutes into the show, we have 46 people in here. I want to thank everyone who is in this show tonight, whether you're watching on YouTube or
no buzzing. Cheers, buddy.
Maybe we're buzzing now.
Yeah, I certainly am.
But no matter where you're watching, we appreciate it, and we appreciate all the comments coming our way. And once again, want to thank Sons of Erie for being the sponsor of tonight's show. So with that, Jeff, before we bring Bryce on, let's talk about some other positions in general, because I think the wide receiver room is also very interesting to talk about. And I know Bryce is going to tell us some of his thoughts and based on what he wrote in his article, but what are your initial thoughts on that wide receiver room and kind of segueing into the tight ends? Because apparently Dalton Kincaid can be a new slot receiver for the Bills.
And so can Nyheim Hines. And so can Hardy. I think this is a dynamic room that is going to pose a lot of coverage matchups. I thought about more after last week, and I'm very critical that we don't have a running back that forces a team to put 8 in the box. Do we need it now? And this is I'm a critic of my own opinion. Oh man, a lot of these guys can play a lot of different spots, and in bunch, in like Patriot, and like a Celtic wide spread, and they pose problems. Does it hurt that Beasley got signed to the Giants? Are we not talking about that? No, because
Beasley is a New York Giant, a New York Bill.
Does anybody know where John Brown is right now? No, because we're not sad on what we were. We've evolved and now we're moving, and I'm excited to see something completely different. And I'll say one thing with all these guys, and you better be ready to play, man. And that's because Dorsey's going to expect it from you, because Dorsey's not deaf, dumb, and blind. You know what I'm saying? He's going to want to be moving fast, and he's going to be he's going to want to be dynamic, and whatever it takes, whoever it takes, to get his vision out on a play call set or a personnel set. I think he's going to be unafraid, because that's what he's got to be. He's unafraid. He's got the biggest weapon in the AFC East.
I said this before, and I'll say it again. This is a make or break year for Ken Dorsey. Now, that is a whole other rabbit hole that we can get into. We're not going to do that tonight, but this is a huge year for Ken Dorsey. While this window is wide open, with all the talent that we've been talking about, you cannot fumble the bag this year. You have to spread the field horizontally like we talked about last week. You have to maximize the talent. You have to use all of your weapons. You can't be one-dimensional. And you know what? That just kind of segues into the running back room. We can go back to the wide receivers, but how do you feel about the running back room? Because I really like this.
No. You start, because I don't know.
Okay, I'll start.
I think that's I think that's an okay opinion to have. I don't know. I
just kind of wait and see.
That's okay, right? Like there's a lot of people that like do a lot of different things, and I think we have to be real. Like the running back play is not going to dictate this offense. You know what I mean, Kev? Like it's just not going to dictate anything. It didn't dictate it last year or anything like that. So I think it's okay not to have a running back opinion right now. I think they'll keep dynamic people. I think some of these players might need to find another role within special teams to really justify keeping them, because there are some expendable contracts on there. But I'm not dumb enough to think that running back play is ever going to be at the forefront of who we are on offense as an identity. So I think it's okay not to have an opinion and wait and see. Yeah. Wait and see. That's my opinion.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I agree. Running the ball is never going to be the Bills' identity, while Josh Allen is a Bills quarterback, at least in his prime right now, 27-year-old Josh Allen. But this is a huge year. I just talked about how this is a make or break year for Ken Dorsey. Part of that means that you have to be able to run the ball in certain situations. When teams are just teeing off on you, playing that too high cover shell, you have to be able to hand it off to guys like Damian Harris or James Cook
to keep them up. That's a great concept thing. You have to keep them honest.
Yes.
They don't have to fear you, but there has to be a real threat that there could be you need to play some cover 0, cover 1. There needs to be a real threat of a leaking back out, and you might need to commit your middle linebacker to some coverage. But that is a brilliant point. They don't need to fear the running back, but they need to respect it, because if you're just playing too high bail or a Tampa 2, it's a limited success model.
Well, I'm not saying that Damian Harris has to come in and be Derrick Henry, but Damian Harris can come in and do what he did in 2021, and that is rush for over 900 yards and 15 touchdowns. Now, last year, he only played in 11 games due to injury. He had to play and share snaps with the Ramondre Stevenson, who kind of upgraded him as the RB1, which is part of the reason why Damian Harris came here. But Harris only ran for 462 yards and I believe 3 touchdowns last year. So he's not coming off that good of a season, but we know what he can do. And that is be that power back in goal line situations, short yardage situations, take some of the pressure off of Josh so he doesn't have to take those big hits. And that is why you get a guy like Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, who can also be that veteran presence to help someone like Josh Allen out.
Kev, I think we have to, going forward, if we keep doing this, we have to issue some superlatives at the end of every podcast. And I have an early nomination for the spiciest take of the night.
Okay, let me hear it.
Trey Williams. If Bills get to the AFC Championship or better, Dorsey leaves next year for a head coaching job. Your thoughts?
Well, he was interviewing with Carolina during the playoffs. So, I mean, that's not too crazy to think of because you want that new up-and-coming offensive mind.
How do we go for this is a make or break year to if it's good, he's gone? That's crazy.
Well, that's his opinion. I mean, I
no,
know.
I'm just saying. Okay, so that's our first nomination.
Well,
Best, wildest, coolest. Yeah, probably that could work out. Maybe not. Take of the night.
Well, I will say winning cures everything. So if the Bills win the Super Bowl, like Trey's saying right here, or what did you say, get to the AFC Championship or better, I think people are going to forget about the lackluster offensive season, at least down the stretch last year for Ken Dorsey. If he can right his wrongs, then people are going to be saying, oh my God, I love Ken Dorsey. He is the best offensive mind. We're going to lose him like Brian Dable. We didn't like Brian Dable at first.
Anybody that says they like Brian Dable, like, prove it.
I'll admit, I hosted a radio show at Fredonia State. The Bills played the Browns. It was in 2019. I was hosting the post-game show, and I went on this rant about Brian Dable and why the Bills need to think about replacing him. So I will admit right there.
I mean, I wanted Josh Rosen. Happens to all of us, guys.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on what the Bills can do in the win column or not, because if they blow it again, then, you know, people are going to be saying that Ken Dorsey needs to go. But if they win, then Dorsey's probably going to be getting a lot of interviews, and, you know, they're going to be looking for the next bright new offensive mind to lead their team.
I mean, Ken Dorsey, this is your Geno Smith year.
So, okay, going back to the running backs here, what are your thoughts on James Cook? Because tying this in with Ken Dorsey, I think that is a huge area where the Bills can improve. We talked about Damian Harris being that short yardage back, but how about getting the screen game going again? I wanted the screen game so bad. I thought that they were going to revolutionize what they had with Fred Jackson and CJ Spiller last year, but it just never materialized. Yeah. And James Cook, what do you have? 89 rushes for 570 yards off the top of my head. I'll have to double check. Nyheim Hines, they acquired him at the trade deadline. He had 5 rushing attempts, 6 receptions. Maybe it was the other way around, but either way, he touched the ball 11 times in a couple of months that he was here. That cannot happen. You have to figure out a way to use these guys. And again, I'm not saying that they have to be a Derrick Henry or a Nick Chubb, but look what Kansas City did last year with the 7th round draft pick in Isaiah Pacheco. Learn how to use your players that you draft.
That's brilliant. Look at how many. Look at the run the Patriots are on, and they had Danny Woodhead. You know, it was almost like plug and play guys. Like you use what you're given. You know, you can't cook a cake if you don't have flour. But at the same time, you can make something that's serviceable, and we'll feed some guests. That was a good analogy. I just made that up. It actually wasn't that good, but I'm proud of it. So,
okay, so going back to the wide receivers here. So, I don't mean to exclude you guys. If you have any thoughts, please, feel free to share. Want to say, I forgot to say this earlier. Make sure you smash that like button. I haven't been saying that lately, but make sure you smash that like button. We got 51 people in here. Subscribe to Buffalo Fanatics if you haven't already. Follow us on Twitter. Follow Bryce when he comes on. And let's have a good night here, as it is July 23rd, training camp 2 days away. So going back to the wide receiver room, let's not talk about the Stephon Diggs situation, because I hope that is over.
No, because there is no situation.
And hopefully we already settled that on one of our previous episodes. So, Diggs is a fiery competitor, and we'll leave it at that. Let's hope, again, tying this in with Ken Dorsey, let's hope that he learns how to have a balanced attack with Diggs at the forefront. And I'll leave it at that. Now, going to wide receiver 2, Gabe Davis. I think we had a comment in here about Gabe. I would have to go back and find it. But I think we can all agree that Gabe needs to improve.
I remember it. My Asperger's brain remembered it. It was I believe it was Jessica saying, it's unfair, kind of the narrative around Gabe with his injury. Yeah, a lot of those things are going to be. It's tough. It's tough. Injuries happen, man. And we are too hard on players because we want it and we've been starved for it so bad. I do think this is going to be a great year for Gabe. I do think the hype was a little too big for his britches. Kev, come on. His last game, he's left with a 4 touchdown performance and a loss away. How does that not become like the bat signal that we're going to expect, week 1? And man, he played well, but are we too hard? Like, injuries happen. Like we called up John Brown, last year. We got Bees back.
We didn't even call him up. We called him out of retirement.
Yeah, we called Chris Hogan last year. Hogan's a buddy of mine. I played at Chris with Monmouth. He was like, dude, I'm done. I'm playing, like, I'm training for lacrosse now.
They actually called him?
Oh, no, 100%. Yeah, they called him to work it out. And he's like, I'm done.
Chris, you heard it here first.
No, I hope.
It's news to me.
Yeah, it's not good news. Because we don't want to be that. That's why it's not good news. We don't want to, stitch together a late run with players that have, been with the organization. And to some degree, they're plug and play because they have played in this offense. That's kind of the reason they were signed. It's not because it was like an open opportunity, because, if John Brown was so integral to our playoff run, why wasn't he on the roster week 1? It's we're trying to, plug some holes because injuries do happen. The most healthy you're going to be all season is the day before the first day of contact. It's just what it is. And it's about mitigating and take care of yourself.
Tuesday coming up in 2 days is going to be
the
healthiest day of the year.
Right now, when they're home and with their families in like a Zen state, is the healthiest they're ever going to be, mind, body, and soul, Kevin. It's just what it is.
So I think with Gabe Davis, expectations were too high coming off of that 13 seconds game, 4 touchdowns, 213 yards or something crazy like that. But I think the numbers that he put up last year were very shallow. And I think that we need to find a happy medium for Gabe, where I don't think he has to go off every single week like he did in Kansas City. But I think you want him to get at least 60, 70 receptions, 1,000 yards. And I don't want to put a number on for touchdowns, but I would have to look up his stats just so we know exactly what we're going off of, because I do remember the one stat, he had a 52% catch rate. That's not going to cut it. So that's the big one that sticks out. But the one thing that I'll say before I let you jump in here is that I think that the Bills did a great job of building around Gabe, where I think someone might have said it in the comments where it was too much pressure on Gabe. Maybe that was our pressure that we put on him, but you get someone like Justin Shorter, and I think that's perfect, where that wasn't an indictment on Gabe saying, hey, we drafted this guy in the first round, so that means your time is up. Justin Shorter is simply here for more depth and competition and to push Gabe along. You get someone like Deontay Hardy in here, Trent Sherfield, more veterans, more depth and competition, where they're not showing Gabe the door. They're simply just boosting him up more and giving Josh more weapons.
Yeah, Jessica just said Gabe was asked to be number 2 last year and then has to be a full-time blocking wide receiver. Touchdowns. You said, yeah, we don't run the ball. So, I mean, full-time blocking wide receiver is disingenuous. And Jessica, while that is pretty accurate, he was asked to block a lot last year. That signals to me that he's not afraid of hard work. He doesn't have the diva mentality. And if you're asking a wide receiver to block, especially towards a wide sweeping or wide boundary run, you think that he is reliable enough that if he hits that block, they can bust it. They can bust it wide open. So while it's not what you typically see out of wide receiver, when you ask a wide receiver that consistently to block, which you are correct, that tells me he's not afraid of hard work or the stat line, which, I mean, it's not what people want to see, but like, I love that, man. That's awesome. Edelman wasn't scared to block. You know what I mean? Randy Moss, on the flip side of the coin, was never asked to. You know what I mean? Amendola, Debo Samuel. If he's not got the ball, like he's gonna get tenacious with that. So I think that that's a badge of honor. Like, you're not scared of the hard work or think you're bigger than, because your job encompasses so many things on the football field rather than one that people think you're typical of you. You know, the quarterback is just not the quarterback. We all agree that he needs to know every position, but a wide receiver isn't absolved if you want to be good in this league and dependable from blocking and getting nasty when you're called upon, because that's how big runs are busted wide open, in my opinion. But I know nothing. So
we have another comment here that I want to touch on before I tell you Gabe's stats that I was able to find. So from Seasoned Beast, I'm trying to start a comedy podcast myself, and love seeing you guys growing and doing so well. Keep it going. Go Bills. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure Jeff does
no,
too.
yeah, the real comedy is me having to tell my wife, like, hey, we're going to do a podcast in my kitchen again. So to think that that's sustainable, that's the real comedy. So thanks, man. I really appreciate the comment, dude. This is new for me.
Yeah, well, any way that we can help you guys, feel free to let us know. We're here for you. You're here for us. If you guys do want to sponsor this show or any other show, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Actually, all of my usernames are just at Kevin_Syracuse. Once again, Sons of Erie, as Jeff is wearing here with this hat, you can see a little graffiti in the background up on the cupboards. The Sons of Erie company sponsoring tonight's show. If you guys want to get in on that, let me know.
Or no, sonsoferie.com. Yeah, that'll work.
Sure. Yeah.
www.sonsoferie.com. Go check that out, guys.
And once again, of course, make sure to smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and keep firing away with those comments. So, all right, here are Gabe's stats, and I'm glad I pulled them up because I don't want to just talk about last year. I want to talk about his first 3 seasons in general. So, his rookie year, 62 targets, 35 receptions, 599 yards, and 7 touchdowns. 2021, 63 targets, 35 receptions again, 549 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And then last year, 93 targets, 48 receptions, 836 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So I think if he's going to get targeted that much as a wide receiver too, because now you don't have someone like an Emmanuel Sanders or a John Brown taking snaps away, I think if you're going to give Gabe 90 to 100 targets, I want to see him with at least 60 receptions and at least 1,000 yards. And it seems like he's around 6 or 7 touchdowns every year. And you know what? Maybe that's okay because they have Justin Shorter and Dalton Kincaid and Deontay Hardy. So maybe I shouldn't say that Gabe needs to have 10 touchdowns, but I think we need to see an improvement in just about every statistical category.
I mean, if you're going to give him 90 targets, you better give him an extension.
Well, that could be on the horizon too. We talked about that last week. Kevin Masser had some details on that just based on some things that he knows and he's heard. So, I mean, that could be something that gets done in training camp.
And you hope it does.
If it is on the table.
What's your thought? Is it? Gotta be, right?
I mean, I don't know anything, but I think Brandon Beane works in mysterious ways, in a good way. I had no idea that.
Did you just call him the Lord?
Did I?
The Lord works in mysterious ways. That's where that phrase comes from.
Okay.
But Brandon Beane, I like that though. I might start using that at church.
There we go. Where was I? Oh, Brandon Beane. Yeah. I had no idea that Ed Oliver was getting extended. That came out of nowhere. I was on my way to the Bandits game and I looked at my phone. 4 years, $68 million.
Congrats, Bandits. Congrats, Ed Oliver. That's awesome. That's a big contract,
For both. Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Gabe gets extended tomorrow for all we know before they even show up to training camp.
Marco's saying just stop dropping easy balls, Gabe. If you want some like nerdy performative things, my thoughts on that, watch a lot of film. Gabe kind of rounds his routes a little bit and he never has his hands ready. I shouldn't say never. That's an unfair critique. On drop balls, it does not appear that he feels confident that the ball is coming his way because Josh is so spicy and has such arm strength. You come out of a break, you need to come out of that break expecting the ball to be thrown at you. And I don't know if that was kind of like, he realized he was dropping some balls, so he felt like he was a low priority. But you come out with an 80 break, a jerk, and whatever in that route tree, you need to expect the ball coming to you. And I just noticed something a little weird with him. Like it never seemed like he had his hands prepared and expected like he was going to get the ball. And you need to do that in this league because with a quarterback that talented, he can spread it. He can spread it like butter on rye, dude. So,
well. I do agree with that point because if you take the drop passes that he had, Pro Football Reference has him with 9 drop passes, which was up there in the top tier. I would have to look at the list, but he was one of the lead candidates in drop passes. So if you take his average of 17.4 yards per reception, multiply that by 9, if he were to catch all 9 of those, that's 156 yards right there. And that pretty much gets him to 1,000 yards. So that is huge right there, where he just needs to simply hang on to the ball.
Well, what about Al right here? Check that out. Al, that's a great comment, dude. When you spread the ball around so many different talents, targets, and stats are going to look different. It's fair. And they're going to look a lot more different this year because, I mean, no one's arguing that this room, this arsenal of weapons Josh has, he's never had before, man. He's never had it before.
Yeah, so, I agree because maybe I shouldn't put numbers on someone like Gabe, because if I'm saying that Ken Dorsey needs to spread the ball around more, maybe that means Gabe doesn't become a 1,000-yard receiver, but maybe that means he has 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, but Justin Shorter has 500 yards and Deontay Hardy has 500 and Trent Sherfield has 400, something like that.
I mean, do the litmus test. Everybody can. This applies to everybody. Do the litmus test. If he goes to a AFC East rival, are you upset? Gabe, yes. Naeem Hines, maybe not. Dawson Knox, absolutely. I'm furious. Spencer Brown, furious. That's kind of it's always been a good litmus test for me. Like, DeAndre Hopkins goes to I don't know, the Patriots. Do I care? Probably not. Probably not.
I would. You say DeAndre Hopkins?
So let's not do this. Let's stop. Let's just put the microphones right down. Take 2 seconds, and we'll just. Okay, what do you want to talk about next?
I think this is a good time to bring Bryce Martino in, because Bryce wrote an article about the wide receiver room, and I think this is a perfect spot, even if we didn't have that 2 seconds of silence.
No, it's good to reset.
I want to bring Bryce in and see what he thinks about this, because I know he's been a big Gabe Davis guy, and like I said, he wrote the article. So let's hear Bryce's thoughts as we welcome Bryce Martino to the show. Bryce, how you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. How about you guys?
Good. It's 10:24 here, July 23rd. Can I talk about the weather real quick? How perfect of a day was that today? Just 80 degrees and sunny. You can't beat it. That's part of the reason why this show is so late, because we just have to soak up that sun while it's here, because we all know we're going to be freezing our butts off at Highmark Stadium in just a few weeks.
I'm gonna interrupt there. Yeah, I'm 6'3", 285 pounds, and I'm also come from Irish immigrant family. It wasn't a great day for me, and I hope there's someone in the chat that empathizes with that. My body aches, and every part of my body is either aching or sunburned. Played a lot of golf, 45 holes yesterday. So hey, you know what I heard, by the way? Kyle Williams, like scratch golfer.
Really?
Big guy can move.
We saw that in Miami.
Ed rides horses. Like, man, multifaceted people. Oh no, Season Beast, we didn't take that way. We're riffing off you, man. Definitely drop the link to your podcast, man, if you get it started. Because Kevin and I will be doing this for a little bit. So, Bryce, what's up, dude?
Not too much, man. I'm feeling great right now. Feeling excited for training camp. Gonna go to a couple this year, so feeling excited, feeling ready for the season to start.
Now, Bryce, let me lead you in here, because John brings up someone that I have failed to mention so far, and that is Khalil Shakir. And I've been a big Khalil Shakir guy, so let's just get right into it with these wide receivers, including Khalil Shakir. And we really haven't talked about the slot receiver position yet. I mean, I mentioned it with Dalton Kincaid, but I want to get your thoughts, Bryce, because now we have Deontay Hardy, Khalil Shakir, Trent Sherfield. When he was on One Bills Live after they signed him, they said, "Where did the Bills envision you playing? Did they tell you?" And he said, "Yeah, I think they like me in the slot." And I was like, "Huh?"
Sounds like you like Kincaid in the slot based on what you just said.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a Khalil Shakir guy.
All
I
right.
also like Deontay Hardy. I mean, I do like Kincaid and using him in different ways, especially if Dawson Knox is the 7th highest paid tight end in the NFL. You want both of those guys to be on the field and getting receptions and targets and yards, and not just being used for blocking. And really, Kincaid wasn't even a blocker in college. So I do want them to be used in different ways, but I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to do this. So, Bryce, what do you think about this slot receiver position and just the wide receivers as a whole?
Yeah, I'm feeling excited about the slot receiver position. You mentioned Khalil Shakir. I'm a big fan of his. I've been a quiet supporter of his all off season, much different than Gabe Davis last season when I said he's going to be an all pro. So hopefully it works out better this year. But yeah, I think, it's going to be Shakir and Deontay Hardy battling for his slot position, and it's no shot at Trent Sherfield, but just the money that they paid Deontay Hardy, I expect him to get more reps at training camp this year. Now I do like Shakir more in the slot to start the year week 1. We'll see how it goes, but in limited snaps he played at slot last year, he did pretty well. If I can find his stats, he had 10 receptions for 161 yards and 1 touchdown during the regular season.
And that's a problem right there.
1 yards in postseason.
Not to cut you off, but 10 receptions for 161 yards. Every time that guy touched the field, he produced. And
he did
speaking
produce,
of Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir hung on to the ball. And he made some big plays when his name was called upon.
He maximized his opportunities, that's for sure.
He was fantastic in limited snaps he played.
So I was a big Khalil Shakir guy. Bless you. And I was saying that he needs to be the starting slot receiver. And now they signed Deontay Hardy. Trent Sherfield, I guess they're going to try him in the slot, maybe. Dalton Kincaid. So now maybe there's a logjam at the slot receiver position. Again, it's a good problem to have. But when they signed Trent Sherfield and drafted Justin Shorter, I envision them as being those possession receivers. And that's something that the Bills lacked last year, where they didn't have that guy to just run down, just a simple curl route where it's 7-8 yards, go get the first down. Everything
something
was
like Cole Beasley did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think Cole was like that, Bryce? I think Cole fit his body into some unique spaces and tight windows, but I don't think I don't think he was a big enough body, I think. And I don't think he was explosive off the line, but he unless he was like fitting a seam, I don't think he ever I can't remember, Bryce, maybe you can. I don't think he ever got to the sticks. I think he was almost like a hot route. I think he was a very, very big wheel. Not wheel, like an upcycled vertical guy. But I don't know. I don't know. You tell me, because I'm confused. I'm not confused. I'm unsure of my own opinion.
Well, you do have a point there, but I will say this: Cole Beasley, when he ran a slant or a curl route, he was phenomenal. He was Josh Allen's go-to guy in 2020 and 2021. But I don't know. My issue with Sherfield is, can he step on the field and play a consistent amount of football where you're going to see a big uptick in production from, him with Miami to him now with Buffalo? Because Kevin, you did mention there's a logjam at the slot receiver position, and I'm not even going to include Dalton Kincaid there because I feel like we're going to run more 2 tight end sets.
Well, do you think it'd be is the reason you don't include Kincaid because of 2 tight end sets? Kevin thinks he's a slot guy, or do you think that
I never said that he was totally a slot guy. I just said that it seems like they want
Bryce,
to use
check the
him.
tape, Bryce. Check the tape. No, I'm just saying, we also have to understand this guy came from the University of San Diego. 1AA guy. He only played what? I guess
That's what we're talking about?
Kincaid.
No, he was Utah.
Sweetheart. He started at he transferred to Utah. The University of San Diego, that's my wheelhouse.
I thought you were talking about where they drafted him from.
No, yeah, but that's how he started his career. So what I would say, Bryson, I don't know, is that he's still growing into his game. Clearly, he was 1AA talent, much like me, nothing wrong with it. But he grew to almost, is Utah Power 5? We'll call it Power 5. He grew to a Power 5 talent. So it makes me think that he's gonna keep climbing, and we haven't seen the apex of his talent. So maybe harvest that. I mean, I still think the less you put on field of Kincaid, the more he could surprise you. So why don't you take those fucking growth weeks when we're still trying to figure out our room and not trying to plug him into a role that we don't even know if he can play in the NFL?
Well, again, I mean, I'm not a big advocate saying that Dalton Kincaid needs to be the starting slot receiver. I'm just saying that his name has been circled around a lot of rumors saying that they're going to use him for that Cole Beasley role. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, how do we see this shaking out when you have so many guys that can play the slot? You have a lot of guys,
so many NFL veterans,
tight end room now, yeah. And then you still have some guys on the outside. And going back to Trent Sherfield, the play that sticks out in my mind that I love, and this is what I want the Bills to use him for. San Francisco?
Yep. I knew it.
Where he was that outside receiver, caught it over the middle of the field, and he turned on the Jets.
Got upfield.
Got upfield.
Didn't even have to just here's my Here's my physical my physical athletic subset. It's better than yours. See you in the end zone. So
that's what I envision with Trent Sherfield is kind of being like that Jake Kumaro, but like a glorified, healthier Jake Kumaro.
And it's
a better Kumaro too.
Bryce, doesn't it stink we never got to see Kumaro last year? Or you don't think he would?
I was excited to see Kumaro. After that touchdown against, who was it, San Francisco a few years ago. I wanted to see him so bad.
Me too, man.
Then he got hurt against Miami, and we just never saw him again. I don't know if he just left Buffalo or what.
So Bryce, I'm going to put Bryce. Who's on the outside looking in right now, and who has the ability to change it by the end of camp?
Isaiah Hodgins. Oh wait, whoops.
Wow, you're
at the slot position or just
in the wide receiver room. Who is on the outside currently looking in, and who do you think has the best chances of changing that sentiment?
So on the outside looking in,
just right now,
it's tough because I know, man. I don't know if any of these guys, besides the undrafted practice squad guys, get cut. Because right now you're looking at Diggs, Gabe, Shakir, Hardy, Sherfield, and Justin Shorter. I don't know if you can cut any of them. Because right now,
Bryce, I agree.
You can't cut a draft pick. I know some teams do, but Buffalo hasn't in years past. Then you paid what's his face, Deontay Hardy, a decent amount of money, so you're not going to cut him. And then Sherfield, they didn't pay him tons of money, but he still produced in Miami last year, so you're not going to cut him either. So right now what you're looking at is, 5, 6, 7 guys making the roster at wide receiver. I don't have an issue with it, but, maybe
it's going to take away from another position group.
It is going to take away. Maybe tight end, because right now you're looking at 3 guys making it.
You got what, Knox? You got Q? Yeah, you got the 3 guys are probably what, Knox, Q, and Kincaid?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Gilliam at fullback.
Bobby Hart's not back.
I don't know. Do you take away from tight end, or do you take away from someone on the offense? On the offensive line, I should say.
I mean, is Quentin Morris's job in jeopardy? Would they roll with 2 tight ends? I don't think so, but going off this conversation, if they like their wide receivers and if Kincaid is that special, would they potentially get rid of Quentin Morris? I mean, they have Reggie Gilliam for that role. You can see that 3rd tight end.
Tommy Doyle comes back for your jumbo package. You got to believe Tommy. I mean, he's caught a touchdown pass. That is Quentin. You got to believe. We do run a lot of jumbo, right? We run a ton of jumbo. You got to remember if Tommy Doyle's back and better than ever, he's going to get a shake at. I mean, he played his high school years. He was a tight end. He was a little indifferent about him. So maybe there's a little battle, non-positioning. You got a MAC battle. You got University of Miami of Ohio's Tommy Doyle versus Bowling Green's Quentin Morris. Kevin Messeri would love that being a UB guy, but.
Hey,
so I have a question for you two.
One thing I want to say.
Wait, he's got a question for us.
Well, go ahead, because this is totally off topic. You know what? Let me just squeeze it in real quick. I forgot to mention this earlier. We got hacked on our Buffalo Fanatics Twitter page. So if you're wondering why we're not live there, I said it earlier, we're live on Twitter. I saw that there was a red exclamation point saying that there was an error, and I was like, why is there an error? Why are we not live on Twitter? Well, we got hacked, so we're working on getting that back. But we do have a backup account. It's at Buff Fanatics. We're not live right there on now. I mean, you guys are probably watching on YouTube anyways. But if you're wondering, that's why. Okay, I just want to throw that in there. Go ahead.
I'm Bryce. I'm kind of scared of this.
So my question is, if you want to run more 2 tight end sets, you can't really cut Quentin Morris. So who do you take away from? Because you got to keep three tight ends and then Reggie Gilliam. So where do you cut from?
Why do we have to keep Reggie Gilliam?
I was going to say,
why is that a foregone conclusion?
Could Reggie Gilliam be the odd man out?
Could someone in the comments
he just signed an
why a
extension
foregone conclusion? Damn it.
It was just last year before week 1 that he signed his extension. So do you really want to cut him?
What's his utility?
I mean,
who's he got dirt on?
That Tennessee game.
I don't know,
He
man.
showed his stuff against the Titans. You know, there was that one stat. I can't remember. This is a very in-depth stat, so
Not a good start.
I wouldn't be able to remember the stats anyways, but the Bills' offensive numbers were a lot better when Reggie Gilliam was on the field last year. I saw that probably around November when the offense started to sputter.
I am deeply interested about who is able to quantify that ethos. We were just better when he was on the field.
I would have to go through I retweeted it back in like November or December. So like, I don't want to sit here on the show and, try to go find that tweet, but there were like some specific numbers that said that the Bills offense was better, statistically proven, when Reggie Gilliam was used.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's a foregone conclusion, and maybe I need like some nerds to tell me like what the dead cap is or whatever. But like,
So I did look at his contract. A post June 1st release is $333,000 in dead cap for this year.
Okay, that's fine.
$333,000 next year in dead cap. Now we do save $1.6 million this year by
right around that amount of money cutting Naeem, and I think people are more worried about him making the roster. I'm not like crushing this dude. Fullbacks need love too, but like it's hard to quantify. I know fullbacks get no love, like with the carries and stuff, but like moving on.
Well, hang on before we move on. I think a big question that needs to get answered here is how much are the Bills going to run the ball? Because if they want to shift to be more of a running team and not necessarily a run heavy team, but like we talked about earlier, just running in certain situations. I mean, that's another thing that we haven't talked about. Everything is in shotgun right now. There's no I formation. There's no play action or anything.
You got a running back in the game. They're probably playing jet protection.
So, I mean, maybe they want to use Reggie Gilliam as a lead blocker for someone like Damian Harris or James Cook. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could exploit him in that way, in ways that we haven't seen before.
And also, before we change topics, when has Buffalo ever gone without a fullback, though? Because even before Gilliam, we were going back to Patrick DeMarco, Frank Summers.
I'll give you who's Jack Nicklaus's Nickel Leary. Hey, I love the two stats. It was the most repetitive stats ever. Hey, did you know Chris Hogan played lacrosse? Hey, it's Jack Nicklaus's it's his grandson, and he doesn't wear gloves.
There you go. The more you know, right?
Yeah.
No batting gloves. How about that? You a baseball fan?
No. Last baseball game I watched was Michael Hyde's softball tournament.
Hey, the Yankees swept the Royals.
That. By the way, I love that Spencer Brown got drug tested the next day after winning it, the home run derby. Corn fed.
Yankees swept the Royals. I just got to throw that in real quick. Anthony Rizzo finally broke out of his slump, 4 for 4 with the home run today, baby. First one since May 20th. So speaking of Michael Hyde's softball event, Anthony Rizzo finally went deep.
Who was Russell Wilson drafted by? Was it the Yankees? Because John Elway was drafted by the Yankees.
Yeah.
Wilson was traded to the Yankees. He wasn't drafted by them.
Oh, he was drafted by the Rangers, right?
What school did?
I think so, yeah.
Kevo, what school did Russell Wilson start at?
I'm not sure. I mean, he
not Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, but
NC State.
Bingo. Yep.
Okay. So, are we good with the wide receiver talk? I mean, if we have any other comments or questions, feel free to hit us up.
No. I have a question.
Okay.
You said, are we good? What position group are we good at? Like, let the chips fall where they may. We got what we got. Bryce, start with you.
The article about defensive tackles. So, I mean, I think that is one where we could potentially say that we're good at. So, I mean, if you want to segue into the defensive tackles, I'm good with that because
I'm good with anything you name because I feel really confident that this is who we are, and we need to whittle the baseball. We need to whittle the bat to figure out where we're going to be most dynamic. Cranking fastballs.
I think we're really set at quarterback.
Okay, quickly. Kyle Allen's our backup. Josh's buddy.
Yeah.
God damn it. What if Josh Young gets hurt? Then we got to go with Kyle Allen.
Josh's buddy. We'll just call him Josh's buddy.
I was actually thinking about this earlier. If Allen gets hurt, I don't even want to think about this. But if Kyle Allen has to play, that would force Ken Dorsey to be able to spread the ball around because you can't do superhuman things with your quarterback anymore. He's not going to be on Madden mode. Kyle Allen is not on the cover of Madden for a reason. Josh is. So it's something to think about, but I don't want to think about it too long. So let's move on.
All right. So, okay. So our backup is Josh's buddy, right?
Yeah. And Matt Barkley. Can't forget Matt Barkley.
The GOAT punter last year.
So, Bryce, I mean, do you want to get into the defensive tackles now? Is that a position that you think that the Bills are set on?
Yeah, we can move over to that. I love our depth there. After last year, all the injuries that we had late in the season and the postseason, we really added to that room. Bringing in DJ Dale, Poona Ford, brought back Jordan Phillips. I love all those additions.
Wasn't it nice to see them commit some real capital and not just
it was.
And not just like 1 year like veteran well, if you're not doing anything else, you want to play for the Bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean we've seen that in years past. Even with Daquan Jones' 2-year deal, we don't really put a lot of money towards that position for one reason or another.
Yeah, I think the last
finally they did it with Ed Oliver.
Yeah, we passed on Harrison. He had a great year.
Yeah.
It almost seems like we got a bad taste in our mouth with Darius.
And I don't know why either. It wasn't even this regime that gave Darius all that money.
So, yeah, I mean, what are our thoughts about the go ahead, Bryce, yeah.
No, I was just saying, I love this room. Poona Ford and Daquan Jones. I feel like Poona can be what Daquan Jones is, only a younger version and more long-term.
I like that.
Because they both have the same role. They both play, the one tech, rushing passer, the run stopper.
And, maybe that was the reason why Daquan wasn't extended. I mean, maybe that's still in the cards, but I saw that was on Twitter a lot this year. Extend Daquan Jones.
He's on a contract year right now, too.
Yeah. Block those people. Well, now that they have Poona Ford, that could be your future one tech. You sign him to a 1-year contract, and you have, I'm going to say it right now. You signed Poona Ford to a 3-year contract extension. You have him and Ed Oliver clogging up the middle for the next 3 years. 4 if you include this year.
Who would you guys rather have had? Extend Harrison? Or where we're at with Poona?
Don't do this to me right now. I love Harrison Phillips, but I think what Poona Ford brings to the table is exactly what this team needs. So I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Bryce, who are you more juiced for? Floyd or
Poona? Definitely Floyd. I think we needed Floyd more just for when Von's out.
I'll maybe we can segue to linebackers with this because I would disagree with you respectfully, of course.
Jeff, before we do, your mic is out. I can barely hear you. I'm just going off
how's that?
Kevin's microphone right now.
How long has it been doing that for, Bryce?
Hey. Give me a moment.
Pretty much since we moved over to the D tackle position.
Oh, so recently, okay. Yeah, he'll fix that, and then got to turn guy on the left mics up. So I think you're the guy on the left. If we're going based on the camera position. All right, so Jeff's going to be fixing that. Bryce, this gives me time to ask you, what do you think about Jeff and I's conversation about Von Miller at the beginning and kind of easing his way into things, not rushing him back, and having Leonard Floyd fill that role? And then you have Greg Rousseau, maybe a big year 3 coming, and someone that we really haven't talked about yet is Shaq Lawson.
Yeah, Shaq was very good last year for the role he played and how far down he was on the depth chart. I don't think we put Von on the PUP list or IR. I think he stays on 53-man and, maybe he returns after 2 to 3 weeks. I think they just do that so they have some flexibility right there with Von.
Something that I just thought of, not to interrupt you, but
No, you're good.
maybe you would want to put Vaughn on the PUP list because let's say cut down day comes and they're having a really hard decision trying to figure out who to get rid of. Maybe they say, you know what, let's just put Vaughn on the PUP so we can keep X player. Like one of those guys on the fringe. Maybe you say, maybe this is our way to keep him for at least 4 weeks, and then Vaughn comes back, and then you make decisions.
And speaking of people coming back from the physically unable to perform list, I think I fixed my microphone.
Is that any better?
I'm assuming that's better.
Now I have a question.
Bryce,
it's been a long off season. Yeah, it's better. It's better.
Awesome.
I can hear
Thank you, guys.
What a segue.
It's been a long off season, and I completely blanked. But how long is a PUP list? Is it 4 or 6 weeks?
4 weeks.
I don't know.
4 weeks.
I think they changed it where it's 4 weeks now, and then you can come back in week 5 or the 5th week after. Like you have to be out for 4 weeks, and then you can come back on that 5th week. I think that means that you can't practice.
Count as a 53-man spot.
Say it again.
Does that count against a 53-man roster?
No,
it doesn't.
I don't believe so. No,
it does not.
All right. So yeah, maybe you do that if you want to give him an extra 2 to 3 weeks to heal up, and then you can keep someone like maybe Shane Ray or AJ Epinesa on this roster for a little while longer. I think that could be in play too.
Shane Ray, I forgot about him.
Oh, so back to my point. Sorry, with this Puna Ford versus Floyd thing. I like Puna Ford because we have a liability at middle linebacker, and it's an opportunity. We can swat it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We're gonna have a new middle linebacker, boys, and you're gonna need a really, really sound anchor and that one tech, one shade to make a guy's life, a bit easier. So
that's a great point. I mean, we've talked about this on the show before, but I'm glad you brought that up because that was supposed to be Star Latulippe and Tremaine Edmonds, and look where that got us.
COVID.
So now you want to ease in whoever that new middle linebacker is, whether it's Dorian Williams or Terrell Bernard or even AJ Klein or Terrell Dotson, who's played the position before. Either way, it's going to be a drop-off because you're losing Tremaine Edmonds, just a physical specimen. He's been calling the defense for the past 5 years, and you want someone to take the pressure off that new middle linebacker and to take on those extra blockers to let that new middle linebacker roam around and eat up the free space.
So you haven't identified who that middle linebacker is. Bryce, who is it?
I got to go Dorian Williams here. I love how he fits in this defense. Yeah, the rookie. He's a new age middle linebacker. Some teams are going with a more smaller and faster middle linebacker to man their defense. I like it. Baltimore has done it with Raekwon Smith before. I think
Baltimore has put us in this position.
Definitely, yeah.
Well,
because now
they kind of did that too with the money. I mean, they made Roquan Smith.
That's what me and Bryce are saying. Yeah, they paid Roquan all that money and made it.
I thought you meant just getting like a newer, younger athletic.
No, we're saying Baltimore paid him all that catch. I mean, the positional groups are always going to get reset money wise, but Bryce, isn't that kind of why we're lost Trey and we're talking about this?
Yeah, I mean, if Baltimore doesn't pay Smith all that money, I feel like we would have gotten Tremaine Edmonds back on a shorter deal or smaller deal.
So you think
they made Edmonds the 4th highest paid linebacker in the NFL?
I mean, I'll still root for him. Yeah. I mean, I'm never gonna hate anybody for collecting a check. But so we're gonna go from Tremont Edmonds to Dorian Williams. Are you that high on him, Bryce?
I am. I love him. I love how he can fit in this defense. He has that ability to move over to outside linebacker if Buffalo gets daring enough to put 3 linebackers on field for once. Maybe you can have Milano, Dorian,
I like that joke. That was a good joke.
Now with Leslie Frazier out, maybe we do get daring on game days.
Well,
maybe we do start Western New York.
Now that we have an ex-Carolina guy, maybe I kind of thought it would be AJ Klein. He did play middle linebacker in 2016 for a Sean McDermott-led defense.
He did play middle linebacker for McDermott, and he's been on this roster for the last what is it, 3 or 4 years now?
Yeah,
And he
I
still
think I have
has,
an AJ Klein number 54 jersey, 55, 56.
but the thing is, he still hasn't been able to get on field at middle linebacker. Last year when Edmonds went down, it was Tyrell Dotson who started the next week and who finished a game for Edmonds against
Good point.
Minnesota. So I think the top two would have to be Dorian and Dotson.
And I was, Bryce, I stopped myself because I was going to ask you a question. He played at Tulane, not exactly known for the best competition ever. But the reason I stopped asking you that is because Christian Benford played for Villanova, and we have no problem, playing with small school guys.
Yeah. Bills love to develop the small school or undrafted guys. We've seen it with Benford. We've seen it with Levi Wallace. Dane Jackson is one of them. Cam Lewis has even gotten reps on this defense. So McDermott and Bean love to develop these undrafted.
You can even say Gabe Davis, UCF. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was a higher pick too.
I mean, so was who am I thinking of? Quarterback. UCF. He said if he wasn't in the NFL, he'd just be ripping cigs and working construction.
Oh, Blake Bortles.
Yeah, Blake. Biggest school in the nation, I believe, UCF.
I'm not sure. So I'm thinking, someone that we really haven't talked about here is Tyrell Dodson. What do we all think about Dodson being the starting middle linebacker? And going off of what Bryce was saying, 3 linebacker sets. Could we see more 4-3 this year? This is something that we've talked about consistently. And now that training camp is here, is Sean McDermott, as a new play caller for the Bills, hopefully a more aggressive play caller, is he going to implement more of a 4-3 look on defense where it's not just nickel, 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 nickel?
Well, to be clear, we're still in 4-3. We're just in nickel personnel.
But could we see a third linebackerout there?
No.
Could it be a more matchup-based approach where some teams we put 3 linebackers out there, other teams we do like a Taylor Rapp thing, put him as a box safety, let him do his magic.
Yeah, I mean, but that's called dime. That'd be an even bigger reversion if we put on 2 the quote unquote defensive backs. I think we get Taylor Rapp, honestly, not to divulge too much. I think we can get Taylor Rapp on the field and like the robber. And Bryce, I mean, that's probably just, I know you and I have talked, like he could play anything, that guy.
Oh yeah, for the Rams, he's played everything. Corner, safety, linebacker. He even played a more defensive line, D-end. He played for like 40 snaps in his career. So he has that versatility, and if Buffalo is really wants to go more of a more versatile approach with their defense, more positionless football, then Taylor Rapp could be a more big addition to this defense, where he could play more box safety. He could line up in coverage, and we get more Dorian on field too.
Bryce, when you say box safety, what do you mean there? Just for the unindicted listeners, do you mean like kind of like a rock down roamer guy?
Yeah, more of what Jamal Adams was with the Jets and is with the Seahawks, where he's big enough to play linebacker, can play in coverage and rush a passer. It's more versatile middle linebacker / safety position.
Yeah, I mean, I like that, and I think you bring him into that room. That's probably one of the rooms I'm most excited to be a fly on the wall on. That safety room. Jeez Louise, they haven't been. I don't think it gets talked about enough, Kevin. They weren't healthy together for more than a New York minute. Like.
I mean, the fact that Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are back on this team and healthy, and, talking about Trey White and Kyrie Elam too. I mean, those 4, that is a nasty second.
Yeah, you fired me up. Yeah.
Like, holy cow. When I was writing the article the other day, I mean, this will segue us into the safety rankings. But when I was writing that article the other day, I was getting juiced up thinking about those 4 guys healthy. You got Christian Benford healthy. You have Dane Jackson back. I mean, this is a team that signed Cameron Dantzler. And then you guys are just talking about the aforementioned Taylor.
I noticed you haven't spoke about Dane Jackson.
Back.
I noticed you haven't spoke about Dane Jackson yet. I thought Dane Jackson was like 41. Turns out he's like 26. I feel like he's been cut, added, more times than
Nah, they love Dane.
more times than Will Compton in Tennessee.
John says Rapp was not signed for one season to sit the bench. So, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think they're going to deploy him in different ways. I mean, that goes for all the other guys that we're talking about too. I mean, Dorian Williams, Terrell Bernard.
Rapp baited Tom Brady in that robber kind of Tampa too. The responsibility there is if anything converges out, he can get it, but he's free to jump anything in front of him. Picked off Tom Brady, I believe, once or twice last year. Like Tom Brady's seen every coverage and has been pretty effective with it. I mean, I don't know. I'm juiced about that guy. That's great. Oh man, I'm hyped. That's awesome.
I mean, that secondary is going to be really, really nice. I can still not believe that they were able to get Jordan Poyer back.
Or Rapp so cheap.
Well, speaking of being cheap, do you know how high Jordan Poyer is, or maybe I should say how low Jordan Poyer is paid? Do you know where he ranks?
Let's not do this. He is paid what somebody was going to pay him. He's already tested the free market capitalistic system of the United States of America, of which we were built. You're worth what someone will pay.
But considering what we thought was going to happen, that he was going to get his bag in Miami or Dallas, he is the 25th highest paid safety right now in the NFL. My eyes just completely burst out when I saw that the other night. I was like, wait, 25th highest paid safety? He's not even top 10, let alone top 20. 25th highest paid safety, making over $7 million per year. Or excuse me, making over $6 million. They signed him 2 years, 12 and a half.
Let's have this little powwow, Kevin. Do you think some people just subscribe that he just owns our defensive scheme so much, and that's why he's so effective? Is because that is the scheme that we run. And it's kind of a touch different. Bryce, you brought it up before. Like, we are so unwilling to play conventional, 3-4-3, 3-3. Like, we just, it's not the Teddy Cottrell years anymore. Do you think a lot of teams noticed, combined with, he's older, that he exists in the system and excels in the system, and maybe it's not worth testing if they can work in someone else's system because of his age?
It could be that, but I'm also wondering too if it's more he waited too long in free agency, because if I remember right, it was a week after free agency opened and all teams already blew their money. So could it be that? Could everyone that he had his eyes on, or that was interested?
Then the question is, why wasn't he one of the first ones to sign? Because if he was one of the top ones on the market, you would think that teams would be calling him first. Jesse Bates got some money from Atlanta. We're going to get to him in a few minutes here. When we
look at what Taylor Rapp signed for. Arguably, Taylor Rapp has more upside and athleticism than Poyer does. Poyer has our heartstrings because he's been with us so long. And look what Taylor Rapp signed for.
One thing I do want to add too is one of the teams that was super interested in Poyer was Miami, and they traded for Jalen Ramsey. So, maybe it was down to Miami and Buffalo, and Miami already blew their money on their star corner.
Do you think Jalen Ramsey can play that high safety position or free roaming? Ramsey's on his third game.
He can, but I think he can, but I think he's going to be more cornerback with Xavier Howard.
So let's transition.
Xavier Howard didn't make your list.
He did not. Not even an honorable mention. So
just referencing last week.
I didn't have any Dolphins fans coming after me though, so I thought for sure after the show I would have some Dolphins.
Yeah,
fans.
Nicky Smokes kind of checked out once he joined Barstool. Cashed a check, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'll be there for the chicken wings. Let me know who wins."
So yeah,
we're
about an hour and 20 minutes.
I saw Nicky in the Miami Dolphins playoff game. I saw him driving by me.
Well, wait, what was he trying to get back in after halftime? He's like, I thought these were reusable.
He was screaming his full head off out the car window.
He's the most Spanish-looking guy who looks like he doesn't speak Spanish.
All right, so about an hour and 20 minutes into episode 17 of the BF Writers Club. Want to thank everyone for being a part of the show tonight. Once again, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. And wherever you're watching from tonight, we appreciate it. Make sure you keep hitting us up with those comments. If you have anything else that you want to talk about, there's no time limit here. I mean, I should probably leave Jeff's house eventually, but
yeah. Speaking of that, Bryce, are you hammering suds over there? This is like, I'm having fun talking to you. You got some good points going.
Yeah, I got a Diet Dr. Pepper going on right here.
Oh, nice. Yo, Kev, can you go we are in my kitchen. Kev, can you go in the fridge and grab me a Truly really quick?
Oh yeah, hang on.
Hey, okay, I'll do it then.
So, all right. Top 10 safe.
No,
He's actually going. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, we planned on probably being like an hour and a half tonight, but I mean, everyone's
this
engaged.
Is man on mission right here.
Yeah, this is a good conversation. So we're gonna keep it rolling with the top 10 safeties, top 15 because I got some honorable mentions. So, did you guys happen to read that article that I published the other day?
I certainly did, my friend. And I noticed that you the head photo. Excuse me. Wow. The head photo in that is the standing buffalo that you put Poyer and Hyde in. What do you want back? That jersey more or those two healthy all season?
Oh, those two healthy all season.
Okay. Because
I don't care what the Bills wear. I care who is wearing them.
Because, if we go red helmets, they're dropping the standing buffalo. Just a nice sidebar.
Yeah. So Bryce, what are your initial thoughts on my rankings here? And since we didn't talk last week, if you want to talk about any of the corner rankings that I had, I had Trey White at number 10. If you guys are just tuning in and you didn't catch that last week, so I guess we can start there with Trey White at number 10. What are your thoughts on that, Bryce? And then just what are your initial thoughts on these safety rankings?
Yeah, so you're putting me on the spot here because I did not check out your corner rankings.
Oh, I got this then.
Okay, Jeff.
You love the Philadelphia secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I drafted him on fantasy today for our Fanatics draft here, Bryce. Wait, what did I do to the secondary for Philly?
I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson.
He's with Detroit.
He was
now.
phenomenal.
I know, but like you're basing this list off last year's play, right?
I think he's at least an honorable.
No, but he plays for the Eagles last year, right?
Yeah.
So the body of work of which we evaluated from was from the Eagles. Yeah. The Eagles were really, really good.
I mean, he wasn't really, really good, or else he would have been in top 10.
No. I'll get this, right? If the Bills have anything like the Eagles with that type of cohesion that they had last year, because they've, this is the third person that's lined on your top 10 list. I know he's last week you had two, right? Two Eagles on it, correct?
Yeah, I had James Bradbury at 6, Darius Slay at 5.
So Gardner Johnson, now we're evaluating him best on last. Don't you think that's the product of cohesion? They all trust each other to be where they're supposed to be, and they all make each other better. That, not to exit too much out of the list, that's what I want for the Bills.
That's what you don't want?
No, that's what I want for the Bills.
Oh, okay.
The way the Eagles made everybody better in that defensive backfield this year.
Someone mentioned in the comments last week, it all started up front with the defensive line.
Yeah.
Talking about that cohesion. So, yeah, I mean, Bryce, what do you think about CJ Gardner-Johnson being an honorable mention?
I think that's a pretty fair spot for him. I don't know. I don't know where I'd put him in your top 10, so I think that's pretty good. I mean,
he was a pretty important piece to the Eagles last year, so
I mean, he was for sure. But looking at,
go ahead, I'll get to this after.
No, just looking at the other 10 players he put in this list, it's Antoine Winfield, Jesse Bates, Budda Baker, Micah Hyde. So who are you going to put?
Don't spoil it yet.
Gardner? I didn't say all of it.
Yeah, for the people that haven't seen it, what happens at the end of The Departed? Don't spoil it. No, but I think Gardner Johnson
in there, but
I think Gardner Johnson he's an integral part, and I think the real test of his merit is what he's going to do in Detroit this year.
Well,
but Gardner Johnson was great, and he got a deal away. Poyer didn't.
Yeah, but he took a discount too. I believe he's only on $7.5 million right now.
Yeah, it was like a 1 year, $8 million deal.
Maybe the market was just dry in general. Say it again, Bryce.
It was like a 1 year, $8 million deal he took in Detroit, so it's not like he got insane amount of money from another team.
Yeah.
Now he was tied for the league lead in interceptions last season with 6. He also posted a career high 67 tackles in 12 games, and like I said in the article, he signed that 1 year deal with the Lions. And I just said that he's a chess piece. They can kind of play him in the slot. They move him around. I just need to see a little bit more consistency from him to be a top 10.
Yeah, he had troubles running the alley last year. He had troubles kind of a little bit with communication with his linebackers as to who's setting the edge of the defense. You saw that a little bit in some of their playoff run. But the best part is when you're that good on defense, those teams, they kind of wash out because, just sheer athleticism of that Philadelphia defense kind of made up for some things that only the trained eye could see in terms of his play.
Now, I'm just going to read off the other honorable mentions here so we can keep this moving. Quandre Diggs, Harrison Smith, Talanoa Hufanga. I'm not sure if
Nope, we knew.
Javon Holland and Eddie Jackson. So before I explain my reasoning here, what are your guys' thoughts on those players?
I think valiant effort on that pronunciation.
We try.
Yeah. So I don't know. You have a lot of. Are we calling a 2021 draftee young still? Probably. And I think of your 4 honorable, 5 honorable mentions. Yeah, if you're on a first year deal, we still can call him young, right, Bryce?
Yeah, definitely.
I think.
Unless
I think you got a lot of kids on this.
After your first 2
years,
you
have a lot of guys on here that they have a lot of upside. I think. They're not people that fallen off. So that's. I think. I don't have I wish I had a problem with any of this. They seem properly rated. I don't think you omit anyone. Who's that guy from the Jets? That number 33 fella. Wasn't he supposed to be awesome?
May?
No, that other guy. He played at LSU. He wears a lot of armbands.
Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Seattle?
Is he on this list?
Yeah, that's one guy.
Or 15 to 20. I mean, honorable mentions would essentially mean that they're 10 to 15, or technically 11 to 15. So
no, that was me. That was me really casting shade.
This really isn't like specific order, but I guess if you had to put an order on it, I'd probably go C.J. Gardner-Johnson 11, Quandre Diggs 12, and then Harrison Smith 13. I mean, those are two guys we can talk about right there. Diggs and Harrison Smith. Diggs has really found his niche in Seattle, and he's had 3 really solid seasons for the Seahawks. And then Harrison Smith, he's 34 years old, and this is a guy like Jordan Poyer who he got the bag when he was getting up there in age, and he's not the same Harrison Smith that he used to be, but he's still putting up some pretty solid numbers. He tied a career high with 5 picked off passes last year, also known as interceptions, and he had 85 tackles. So he's been a linchpin on that Vikings defense.
Yeah. Well, also another Harrison Phillips. So Harrison.
I was gonna say I didn't say Harrison Phillips, right?
No. Yeah, no. But we're big Harrison Phillips people here. But moving on. And then I'm like champion at the bit. Can we talk about number 10?
Sure. Yeah. But real quick, I just want to say, as for the young guys on here, Hufanga with San Fran and Javon Holland, those guys, they pretty much had identical numbers. Where let's see, Talanoa had 97 tackles, 4 interceptions, 2 sacks, and he was named first team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. And then Javon Holland had 96 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 1.5 sacks last season. And Eddie Jackson had a really solid season for the Bears before he got hurt. So, okay, number 10.
Go ahead. Your list. You tell me about him.
All right. Well, number 10, I have Antoine Winfield Jr., the son of former Bills defensive back Antoine Winfield. So, this is a guy, he was an honorable mention last year, and there were some other sites that had him ranked higher. Maybe you could put him a little bit higher, but I couldn't go any higher than 10 for Winfield. I mean, the numbers weren't necessarily there. They used him in a lot of different ways. According to PFF, they gave him a 77.8 grade, and their quote was, he carried a terrific 89.4 run defense grade and only missed 3 total tackles. He is also an excellent blitzer with his 4 sacks and league-leading 91.1 pass rush grade serving as the evidence. So maybe that's why the numbers aren't there, but I mean, they can use them in a variety of ways. But either way, he cracks the top 10 for me.
Yeah. My only problem with him, and I think he's awesome, I wanted to draft him. I really, you can
Minnesota guy.
Yeah. I mean, like he went to Minnesota. Yep. Wow. Uwe Schema, the Chippewas. How do you not wear your dad's number? Yeah, I think he wears 31. I think his pops was 26. But I mean, like, he's tenacious, and he's also tenacious not only in the pass game, but he's a great blitzer, man. Antoine Winfield Jr. only nothing but upside, man. I mean, Tampa Bay is going to have a hard year this year. That's a foregone conclusion.
Don't sleep on Baker.
Buddha?
He's coming up.
I'll give you a hint. Baker Mayfield is not the best Baker in the NFL right now, so I'm gonna take a quick nap on that guy. It's a Buddha joke, but no, man, great blitzer, very dynamic, and he's found a way. Yo, like Kyer's dad played in the NFL. Didn't know that. Met the guy. He played a couple.
And Matt Elam, his uncle.
Yeah, Kyer's dad. Yeah, but he played in the NFL. It's almost seemed like that's like a lineage position, like a quarterback. And he's speaking lineage. Antoine Winfield Jr. is poised to usurp his father because he's a great. I don't think. Do you think Antoine Winfield Sr. was ever a top 10 guy?
That was before my time, so I can't really speak on that too well.
So I think much like
maybe that's more for you.
Oh, okay. Age joke. Got it. Leave. No, but I honestly think he's poised to eclipse his father, and it's nothing but upside for this guy, and he's young too. So love it.
Jimmy Dix has a comment here. He says, "Have you guys seen The Last Boy Scout?" I have not. Do you guys know what that is?
No, and I'm scared to ask.
Okay. Well, I guess we haven't seen it.
If you could just give us like a little inside cover of the book plot scenario.
So, Bryce, before we move on, do you have anything to say about Winfield?
Yeah, I just have one thing to say, and it goes with Jeff's point. The only knock I have against him is he's not a Buffalo Bill.
Fair enough.
That was beautiful.
Number 9.
Thank you. I try.
I spoke on him a few minutes ago, and this is Jesse Bates. Now, he is someone who did collect his paycheck. Atlanta gave him a 4-year, $64 million deal. So he's getting $16 million per season, and that's a huge pickup for Atlanta. And yeah, he is a 4th highest paid safety in the league now, and he's been consistent right along. Maybe some years better than others. I think it was 2020 had a really good season, but last year he had 71 tackles, 4 interceptions, and a 76.8 PFF grade. But probably his best stat is he only allowed 19 passes to be completed on 37 attempts. So that's a 51.4 percentage.
I hate that stat.
Why?
I hate that stat because I'll tell you, because so many teams in the NFL plays in cover 2. And if you don't have a very dynamic middle linebacker keeping hash pressure off the safeties, it's really hard to guard the alley and guard a untouched slot receiver streaking up the hash marks. So 51% is crazy, but at the same time, like, that's a very, very transitory stat in terms of many different aspects go into it. Jesse Bates, however, doesn't matter. Guy does it, gets it done, got paid. Good for him. Properly rated, have no grudge with what you did. And that's a hard team to play for in Atlanta because they seem to lack identity, both offense and defense.
Bryce, do you have any comments on Bates before we get to a couple comments here that I want to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely deserved that contract. After playing on franchise tag in Cincinnati, he was phenomenal there. So, I'm glad he got paid. I just wish it wasn't in Atlanta where he's going to waste his talent.
Now, the first comment that I want to get to, Jimmy says it's a movie based on my life. So that's why we haven't seen it yet. So maybe it'll come out in theaters in a little bit.
Is this like an uncle that scored you? That was rough. Sorry. But maybe Pierce, maybe Bryce, you can jump on this one. I think we are all a little, we don't know, but Pierce asked Bryce, will we have someone to replace Edmonds this season? We just went around and said Bryce does think it's going to be our draft pick. Williams out of Tulane. I lean AJ Klein just based on past performance and him being a veteran presence. And Kevin, I
lean on Terrell Dodson. And if you guys want to go back and listen to that part of the conversation or any other conversations that we had tonight, this is obviously recording live. You can go back and watch a playback later on YouTube. So make sure to check that out. We'll put the timestamps on them probably early this morning because it's already 11:17. So I can't say tonight in a little bit because
but Pierce,
it'll definitely be.
Pierce, we'll recap anything, man. Thanks for the comment and listening, dude. Appreciate it.
So, all right, let's move on here because I just said how it's getting pretty late. Still 42 people in here, though. Budda Baker, number 8. This guy is probably one of the most consistent, versatile, physical safeties in the league. And I'm probably biased because I made the list, but I think that he is properly ranked. But I will say that I did have him higher last year, and his numbers didn't really drop that much. It's just that I felt like there were a lot of guys ahead of him who could take that spot. But either way, I think he's within this range.
I mean, when I first heard of Budda Baker on Arizona, I watched him, and I thought he had little sparks of the way kind of Brian Dawkins played. I don't think he ever got to that level. Brian Dawkins was Weapon X and somebody that you circled every day. I made the joke earlier that Baker Mayfield is not the most dynamic Baker in the league, but Budda Baker, like the way that he plays the game and kind of takes care of himself and the tenacity is just the brand of football that I think the Bills want to be. They're just not young enough to be. And Budda Baker, how old is he? He's Bryce, any idea?
27, 28, I would say.
Yeah, I'm thinking more 27 years old.
Yeah. So I don't know. Budda Baker, like, is he ever going to be off this list? He hasn't slowed down. He hasn't usurped to a level that he gets him top 5. I think you're going to see this.
27.
He's 27. So I think you're going to see him on this list for a while, but we've seen his best play, and I think he's going to be a consistent best play player. It's not like a lot of, cornerbacks that, you see him after 4 years. They're the transitory period that they go from age 26 to 30 when you see him on like 4 teams. I don't think you're going to see that with Budda Baker. He's a valued stalwart in that defense, and he plays physical, and he's a little old school. He's not scared of him and Tyrann. Not scared. And I know we're going to get to him, but like 2 guys that like I really value their style of play. And, I know that's being phased out in the NFL with, everything that's going on. So Budda Baker, love him.
Well, speaking of Tyrann Mathieu, there he is at number 7. So I
have a good story about that.
Feel free.
I was at his draft party in like whatever year. Yeah, it was at SL Nightclub.
Where's that?
New York City. It's closed now. It was by the Catch Group, and it was awesome. But he had an entourage of people that appeared to not have his best interests in mind. And I know there was a lot of stipulations on his first team, and he's been nothing but an exemplary person. And for him to return now, to his home state and stuff like that, a life goal to play. I think this is going to be just a marriage that, Tyrann Mathieu is having the career he's supposed to have, despite all the derailments and what he's gone through in life. I am a massive, massive fan of Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. It's almost like, when Pac-Man Jones wanted to grow outside of the Pac-Man Jones nickname and never really did. The Honey Badger wanted to outgrow his nickname in his past, and he's really, really taken off. And I don't know, it's a good story. I really like it.
Well, I mean, he had 91 tackles and 3 interceptions last year and a sack. First year with Dennis Allen. Like you said, he's back in his home state. I think that's just like a great relationship right there. And with Derek Carr as a quarterback now, maybe Michael Thomas comes back. They added Jamal Williams in the backfield, a bunch of other different pieces. I think the Saints could be a really good team again, especially considering how weak that division is.
Yeah, man. He's easy to root for. Bryce, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he was a great addition to that defense. Like you guys are saying, he's been consistent even through, 4 teams now? So I think finally, like Jeff said, landing back in his hometown, playing for his home team, that's going to be great for him in his career.
Yeah, agreed.
And I almost lost one of our tabs here, so I cannot easily access his stats.
So this is the part. Hey, next man. It's the NFL. Next man up, man. I got
62.
this. Bryce, next man up. I got this. You call my number. I got this. So, Budda Baker, 7. Tyrann Mathieu. Micah Hyde, number 6.
I knew that. But I was gonna tell you
Tyrann
Mathieu's completion percentage allowed, but I believe if memory serves correct, it was 62.7.
You are autistic. That is correct. And that's coming from someone who has Asperger's. We're not making fun of mental disease. I have Asperger's. But
and
yeah,
his rating allowed was like a 77.
You're a Rain Man. That's correct.
Okay. I think we need to move on to number 6. And
He is 31, though. He is 31.
Yes.
So I hope Father Time doesn't kill them because I think, speaking of old people, Micah
Hyde, who, you know what? I feel like there's a stigma with Micah Hyde that he's really old. He's not that old. He's 32. I know that's the wrong side of 30 and this and that, but I mean, come on. He's got a few good years left in him. I know he's under contract for just this year, but I think the Bills could at least sign him for another year. Let him and Poyer finish out together. I think both of these guys have at least 2, if not 3 years left in them.
I think that's brave, dude.
That is brave.
Does he have another neck injury in him, though? Because that's going to derail what Kevin's saying.
That's a very good question. I mean, that's the biggest stipulation right now is their health and are their bodies capable of enduring the pain and all those hard hits. I think they can, but it is brave.
Yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough because you want the same consistency in the player, but some you know what? One of the most dynamic things about Micah is not about his lower extremities. It's about the football intelligence of which he plays and the role of which he has mentoring young players and his desire to be here. Yeah, I mean Taylor Rapp isn't done growing, and for have him nurtured in a room with man. That is a duo, Poyer and Hyde, man. They're a formidable duo. And add Rapp into the mix, it's powerful. But Hyde's value, I think, really, his body needs to hold up, but his value is completely upstairs. Because I think, honestly, if we don't have a confident middle linebacker setting our defensive front, there's no reason to not believe that Hyde's not screaming down from the safety position. Hey, this is what we're doing, calling out, run force, run fits. I mean, he's kind of like a nice insurance policy that I don't think a lot of analysts consider.
A crazy stat that I found on Micah Hyde. Since signing with the Bills in 2017, he's picked off 14 passes. Even more impressive, he hasn't allowed more than 29 passes to be completed when targeted since 2018. And that might even go further back. For some reason, the advanced stats on Pro Football Reference stopped at 2018, and he was an All-Pro in 2017. So I would think that would persist into that 2017 season, maybe even 2016 when he was with Green Bay. But either way, I mean, this guy is a lockdown, just stud on that back end, coupled with Jordan Poyer, one of, if not the best safety duo in the league. Now, I'm going to say it, the best safety duo.
Good. You should say it. I believe that too. Yeah. And he's also responsible for one of the greatest in-person highlights I've ever seen. That interception I
was there for that.
It was right in front of me. I am section 114, row 15, 20, and 21. Book it, Dano. That was amazing. It was the greatest thing, Bryce. It was the coolest, like, oh my God, I think he caught that. And then obviously my wife was like, who? I was like, baby, I love you so much. Just not now. Not now. Because it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I just wanted to soak it all up. And
that was like sex for a virgin.
Yeah. I'm happy he's back, man.
So, Bryce, before we move on, because obviously there's another Buffalo safety that we have to talk about, do you have anything to say about Micah Hyde?
Yeah, I was waiting to bring this up for a long time, and it goes with what you guys were just talking about with Micah Hyde against the Patriots. No matter how old he gets or how many injuries he has, he's flying from sideline to sideline every single game, every single play. He's covering the whole entire field.
And he's doing it with confidence.
Oh, yeah, he is. And he's playing well doing it, too.
You know what also, Bryce? I love that even after he got hurt, there are so many cut-ups of him on that practice field.
He was going to come back and play if we made the championship, too.
I know, but him extending his brain, because I think what we were talking about is his talents upstairs. He's on that practice field. He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Player coach, essentially.
Yeah, I'm with it. It's awesome.
Bring him back once he retires. I'm down for it.
Put him on the wall. Okay, before we get to the other bookend here, the guy that I have sandwiched in the middle is Justin Simmons with Denver. Now, I gave him the spot here, the edge on Micah Hyde, just because of the age and because he's very similar to Jordan Poyer. Both these guys were banged up last year, but they still put up the numbers. And Justin Simmons, in only 12 games, had 6 interceptions, which, again, was tied for the league lead.
And he was on the field a lot because that Denver offense didn't do much.
So, Bryce, what are your thoughts on Justin Simmons? Because I know there's been a lot of comparisons between him and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde over the years, but not to his – I mean, I pretty much already did. I'll just say it right now. Jordan Poyer is number 4 for me. So what do you think of the order here? Micah Hyde 6, Justin Simmons 5, Jordan Poyer 4.
So I like it all the way up until you get to Jordan Poyer at 4. I love, and before I get to Poyer, I don't know if you want to, go more into detail.
Oh, speak your truth, dude. I like it. I like where this is going because I think I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah. So Simmons at 5 is great. I love him at that position. He's been consistent year after year ever since he came into the league. I love that for Denver. I love that pick. But going to Poyer now, he's got to be top 3 at the very least. Because I
not agree.
I don't want to spoil your next pick, but I love him more than Kevin Byard. Byard's getting up there in age a little bit. His play is starting to decline a little bit, and Poyer's still going strong. He's still producing at a high level.
But you're arguing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, even with all his injuries that he played through last year, he was still producing at a very high level.
But he's the 6th highest safety, pay wise, right?
What are we talking about?
Simmons, right? No, I'll make this correlated. You were talking about Poyer. Poyer did test the market. Yeah. Now there could be a catch-22 here. Or do you think these teams were just so well sorted at safety that you didn't command that amount of money? But Poyer did test the market, and I just think that Simmons plays a different game of ball, and Poyer is one knock. I don't root for injury. Well, he's one knock away from us, not seeing him for a while during the season. So I think in ranking him top, it's top if everything goes well and he doesn't get hurt. But we're gonna have an interesting question in reliability if Poyer's not there. At his healthiest, properly rated, but it'd be weird to think that he is going to play the entire season at that age at his healthiest. So I guess that's my thing. So I don't know. That's just me.
So wait, do you agree with the order here? So at 5, we have Justin Simmons, 4, Jordan Poyer, and then 3, Kevin Byard.
Poyer at his healthiest, properly rated. I think that is aggressive to think that is the way he's going to play all season. The guy had to medvac his way basically into Kansas City in a Mercedes Sprinter van. He wasn't clear to fly. So totally healthy and properly rated, but probably what we're gonna get is not going to be that, and I don't think that's top 4.
So I mean, Kevin Byard, I didn't even really realize this, but this is a guy who really doesn't miss time. 2017, played all 16 games. 2018, all 16. 2019, all 16. 2020. Actually, I'm just realizing he hasn't missed a game in his career.
He's like the Cal Ripken of cover 2 shell.
So I mean, he has played 114 games and he's made 105 starts. The only times he didn't start was in his rookie year back in 2016. So, I mean, that's a big thing that I probably left out. But I mean, I think I still have him properly rated because durability is a big aspect of this. And I know guys can't control when they get hurt or how they get hurt, but the best ability is availability, if I could say it.
It's true. It's very true.
Kevin Byard is apparently always available, and the numbers are there too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lock. I mean, that's your best pick. That's a lock. Anybody who says Byard isn't a top 3 guy, that's. What do you think, Bryce?
I don't know. I'm still going with Poyer at 3 and Byard at 4, but I I still respect Byard being at number 3. My only knock with him this season.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. My only knock with him this offseason has been, he's been talks of being shipped off, being released or traded this offseason, and he had to take a pay cut to stay with Tennessee this year. He had his contract knocked down from $14 million to $11 million.
What were we saying about Poyer, Jeff?
Didn't you just describe Poyer?
Did I?
Yeah, he's in talks of going away, and he's going to have to take a little bit of a little bit of a cut, whether it be in his ego or it's the same situation with Poyer. The only difference is Poyer has missed games. We don't root for injury. Poyer's missed games, and Byard is a stalwart. He's going to be there for 16 probably again this year, Kev. Poyer, if he needs rest, we're going to err on the side of caution at this point in his career that it's not worth losing him long term. You know what I mean? So, but that's just my thoughts. I don't know.
Well, for what it's worth, I had Poyer number 1 last year, Byard number 2. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because they both dropped.
Sounds like my thoughts are. Sounds like I am outnumbered between you two. So,
well, I mean,
it might be the Bills' bias here, but
say it again, Bryce.
No, I was just saying it might be a Bills' bias here, but I love and respect everything Poyer did, even while he was playing injured last year. He was still at playing at an elite level, and I don't think that can be overshadowed by anything, honestly.
That's a good point, man.
What does the chat think? As we are almost 2 hours into the show, I see we have 38 people in here still. So, if you are still in this show right now, let us know your thoughts on our rankings thus far as we discuss the top 2 safeties heading into the 2023 season. We want to hear from you before we sign off for the night. So that being said, number 2, Minkah Fitzpatrick. This also might be a little bit questionable. I didn't know exactly where to place him, but I ultimately decided on number 2 with Minkah.
This isn't a vacuum, right? It's not. Here's my thoughts. Minkah Fitzpatrick is Ben, and I hate when people do this. They're disingenuous, like with quarterbacks. They're like, well, he had all these wide receivers on his team. That's ridiculous. Like you can't put his play in a vacuum without good players they trust. That Steeler defense is never going to be safety centric. Okay, the days of Palomalu are gone. Okay, I do tip the scale that Minkah Fitzpatrick's play is based on other very, very dynamic people on that roster.
Just a really good Steelers defense.
Like TJ Watt, he is going to rush and kill that edge so hard that you need to keep a running back in jet protection. Okay, so that is one key that Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's a foregone conclusion that you don't have to worry about a safety leaking up and through the alley. You don't have to do that. That makes his life a lot easier. But at the same time, it's disingenuous to say that I have to denigrate him on the list based on people he's playing with. In a vacuum, the game and the competition he is number 2, but I think it's disingenuous not to mention the people on defense he's playing with that aid to some things that are not just make his life easier. That's where I'm at.
Bryce, what are your thoughts on Minkah here?
I respect it. I mean, I love how Minkah plays. He's going to just ruin your day as a quarterback with one play. He's going to win you a football game, or if you're the opposite team, he's going to cost you the whole entire game. He's great on defense. He does everything that Derwin James does, but only better.
Agreed.
That's why I think you
better.
Better
than Derwin James.
Yeah.
He's better, and he's been healthy.
I didn't see your number 1. That's amazing.
That's a perfect segue because I have Derwin James at number 1. So are you guys saying that you would flip-flop those guys and have Derwin James number 2 and Minkah Fitzpatrick as the best safety in the league?
I would, yes. And it's no shot at Derwin.
Yeah, I probably would too, man.
Really, I didn't think that you guys would be that high on Minka, because when I saw that at number 2, and I saw a lot of other people were very high on Minka, I was like, well, wasn't he the one that allowed those 2 big catches to Gabe Davis? And maybe we should drop him. He's probably top 5, maybe not top 2. Should you put Poyer up there or Byard? I was like, you know what? He had career numbers last year. He had 96 tackles, and what was the other thing? Tied a career high with 11 passes defended. He had a career high 82.4 PFF grade, and he only allowed 61.1% of passes to be completed in his direction. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with Minka at number 2. Derwin James, I think, is that, but just bigger and more physical, and he brings more as a pass rusher, and he's been healthy the last 2 seasons.
No. Then why were they sending Rap all last year? I'm like the rock down in LA.
Right. Different LA.
Oh my God. I do this once a show. I get so fired up, my brain short circuits. He's on the LA Chargers, not the Rams.
He's on the Chargers.
Two terrible cover schemes anyway. I just Derwin James, I feel like
he had 4 sacks last year as a safety.
Yeah, I'm wrong, then. Damn. Hey Bryce, I'm against you. I'm with Kevin on this one. It happens once a show.
That's all right.
My brain's short circuit, and I have to apologize to our listeners. And I'm out. Derwin James, number 1. Sorry.
Well, I mean, here's a point from Roy. He says Derwin James is injury prone. So I mean, that might tie into what you were saying, Bryce, that you could knock him there. I mean, I kind of did that with Poyer in a way.
Yeah, okay.
Byard, he's healthy, he's durable, he's number 3. Poyer, we'll put him number 4. So, I mean, do we want to flip Minka and Derwin James because of the durability? Derwin James has played 2 relatively healthy seasons. He was out for the majority of the 2020 season with that knee injury. And the last 2 years, he's played the majority of the snaps. But, I mean, Bryce, do you want to knock him for that and flip him and Minka?
I mean, I'll go back to your point earlier, Kevin, that, best ability is availability. And Derwin James hasn't been available for most of his career. Minka has been.
He just used your point against you.
And he's played at a super high level his whole entire career, from Miami to Pittsburgh. So you got to put Minka number 1. And
Bryce,
like I said earlier, it's not a shot against Derwin James, but Minka just does everything Derwin does, but only better.
Now, Derwin James, I have his numbers here. So he only played in 5 games in 2019, and then he missed all of 2020, and then he played 15 games in 21, 14, and 22. So, I mean, I'm going based on right now going into the 2023 season, assuming everyone is healthy, because when he is healthy, he's really good. And every year that he's been healthy, he's been an All-Pro or a Pro Bowler, or sometimes both. Like last year, he was second-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler, and he was 3rd in Comeback Player of the Year voting in 21. And then, let's see, Defensive Rookie of the Year. He came in 2nd in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting in 2018, and he was first-team All-Pro along with the Pro Bowler. So, like, key words, when healthy, he's really good. And, based on
super rare
right now, going into training camp, everyone's healthy. I'm going to keep Derwin James at number 1.
Boom. Nice job, man. That was good. That's a good list, man.
All right. Well, 1:58. We might do this right at the 2-hour mark. So, do you guys have any final comments on tonight's show before we wrap things up?
I want a yes or no. Don't feel like you have to explain it. Split Hyde and Poyer up. Are they on this list? They're no longer a tandem. Bryce?
Yes.
They were split last year. Micah Hyde was out all year, and Poyer battled through injuries.
Fair comment.
And Hyde was great in Green Bay, too. So
he was good, but he
was
really
good,
took off in Buffalo.
Honorable mentions for non-battles: quarterback, long snapper, kicker.
Well, hey, speaking of which, man, we're doing good with the transitions tonight. Next week, I plan on coming out with my kickers and punters rankings, because then I'm saving the best for last. What'd you say?
Are you doing long snappers also?
Reed Ferguson, he's the best, right?
Number 2, Reed Ferguson's brother, End.
Yeah. So next week, be on the lookout for the special teams rankings. Sorry, no long snappers.
Yo, Mike, appreciate it. Thanks,
August,
man. Mike, thanks, man. Appreciate that, dude, to see that.
Yeah, we'll get to the final comments in a sec here.
Dude, you got called McLovin, Bryce.
Hey, I've been called Harry Potter on this show before.
I mean, so, I think the easier joke would be calling me Fat Seth Rogen, but
hey, I've heard it all on this show, so nothing phases me anymore.
Thick skin. Anyways, before we wrap up, so yeah, kickers and punters next week, and then I'm saving the best for last, where we're going to get into tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks, and that will take us right into the season. Now, I do want to say right now, it looks like we're going to be bi-weekly for the next few weeks here, just based on all of our work schedules and different vacations. It looks like we're going to be bi-weekly. I mean, there's not that much going on right now anyways until we ramp up towards the end of August, and then we're going to have to get to roster predictions, depth charts, breakdowns, all that good stuff. So it looks like as of now, we will be off next week, come back August 6th. We'll be off the 13th, and then we'll come back on August 20th, which I'm finally going to get some Wi-Fi upgrades. I mean, I already have gotten the upgrades, but we're getting fiber in our neighborhood. So I cannot wait for August 15th. So in the meantime, thank you for, letting me do some work from your lovely home here, Jeff.
Hey, man, that list, you did do work. Great list, man.
So, all right. Just want to wrap up with the final few comments here. So once again, Mike said, great show tonight. And I think that was it. Maybe there were a couple other comments. But either way, I appreciate everyone. We appreciate everyone for watching and being a part of the show. Once again, you can go back and watch the playback. Guess we weren't on Twitter after all. Hopefully we will get unhacked. But it looks like Facebook is up again. So, when one goes down, I guess the other one comes back in.
Great.
So,
I hope my grandmother watched.
So, that being said, thank you once again. This is Kevin Syracuse on the BF Writers Club alongside Jeff Brady and Bryce Martino. You've been watching the BF Writers Club episode 17. We'll be back in 2 weeks for episode 18. And until then, happy training camp, especially if you're going. We had the whole incident with autographs last year, so that should be an interesting storyline to watch for. But either way, go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.